Salete, mihi nomen est Stella ad hoc est Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 237 for August MMXXIII. It's not even over. I thought it was going to be over. It's not even over. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics right to the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great runner subscription service, be sure to check out milehighcomics.com. Today was the first day back for me for work school, and then I had my school, and then I closed at Michael's, which was nuts because they only scheduled 2 people, and that's terrible. And now I get to come on and talk about war games. So one hell of a day for me. This guy's perpetually busy as well. He's on. I thought it was the third and final time he was going to be on, but no, I'll talk about he's going to have to come on again. The pain just doesn't stop. But he
Oh
is,
man.
yeah. Well, not you, the pain, but just like,
I know,
oh
but you
gosh.
said at the beginning, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad.
It
And like,
wasn't. Act one was fine. It was fine. Act two was like, oh my gosh, and now here we are. But anyways, it is Josue, as I call him, or
ah,
Joshua Lapin-Bertone. Welcome back, Thrice.
hello. Yes, I've been waiting since the last episode outside of the Coliseum, ready for you to give your signal so I can go in and charge. Um, you
Yeah.
know.
And we don't know what the signal is, but we'll know it when it
We don't
happens.
know, but we'll know. I
Yeah,
mean,
we'll know.
yeah, Harold is currently on stage right now, rallying all the
Oof.
podcasters,
Yeah.
and we
What's
just got
Donovan doing? Baking pizzas?
Donovan probably started this war games. Like
That's true. He threw the wrong pizza on the wrong
he threw
house.
the pizza on the wrong roof.
Oh man, that guy. Oh man.
Yeah.
Now I do want to say I apologize for the audio of the previous episode. I knew immediately once I started editing that my audio was bad, and I knew also immediately that the reason why is because for some reason the setting didn't go through this fancy mic, but through the actual computer. So hopefully it sounds better. But I know Hornacek wrote on YouTube about it, and then
Hornacek from
the good
Crawl Space.
is Hornacek from Crawl Space?
I mean, he's from probably like, a lot of other things that are not, but that's like my
Oh,
association with
interesting.
him. He
Whoa.
had this running thread back when I was on Crawl Space, and I talked about this with Donovan recently that like how long it's been since we left Crawl Space, and I was like, oh, almost a decade. But like he had a thread where he would like quote like funny bits from like different episodes, and he was going from the beginning, and like Brad would like read those during the podcast. Sometimes I think Brad would read
Wow.
them, but I just remember like those were always a delight because he would like find little like. I mean, I guess that thread's gone now because I don't know if you noticed, but the message board is no more.
That's
It's all
interesting.
Discord.
Oh, Discord. Yeah, yeah. I haven't
Yeah, so
transitioned
so
over to
so
that.
Brad nuked it, and he said it was costing him too much money in storage. So
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I know they just had what, their 30th anniversary or something?
no, oh
20th?
God.
Wasn't it? Because
Um, there
I didn't
was an anniversary. I heard
yeah,
about
I was
it.
with someone who got an invitation, but he was unable to make
Yes,
it.
I heard about that
My
invitation.
gosh, if that's true, I see. I don't know Hornacek's origin story unless Hornacek told me and I've just forgotten because after I record, I just forget everything. But that's amazing that Hornacek has followed me. That's years ago. That was like 2005,
Yeah.
6, 7. I don't know. So thank you for following along. Hornacek, you have to send your origin story now because I'd like to know who you are. But anyways, Hornacek, yes, told me about that error. And then the good professor, Carolyn Cook, also texted me about the audio. So I do apologize. Hopefully it's better.
Carolyn.
Yes,
She's
our good.
also from Crawl Space. No, she's not.
No, she is not. I do know that that is not true. That's not true. Now, my former Earth 2 BFF, Shayna, who is a fan of pelicans, if you recall this, remember the pelican capybara situation we had last episode?
I remember you sent me a video and you asked me like,
Yes.
well, what's
Why
the
is, yeah, what is
yeah.
the pelican doing? So your thought, your conspiracy theory, if you will, is that the pelican is vampiric. It's a vampire but doesn't cause any damage because it has no teeth. So
Yeah.
Shayna was distraught over this and wondered how how can this be if pelicans are around during the day? So do you have a follow up?
Yes, the feathers obviously protect them.
Oh, take that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for my intro. Find your joy segment. It seems like we just recorded last week, so I don't know what's changed for you. Actually, I do know what's changed for you, so you can tell me all about it
Oh.
in a short amount of time. But this is Shag, Smack, and Cheese, a comfort and joy. So, what has brought you San Diego Comic Con? I figured you would talk about
Oh,
that
okay.
and being with our naked friend.
Yeah, you said like what's changed. I was thinking, did I go through a big life change? So much has happened in like the last like month since we've recorded. Just I think it's been a little over. I think it's been more like 5 weeks instead of like 4 weeks. But it's like, yeah, like I've gone on like multiple trips since then. Yeah, San Diego Comic Con. That was fun. Yes, our naked friend Donovan returned. This was his
Yep.
first time at SDCC since 2019.
Wow.
So that was interesting. And it's, of course, a whole new ball game because it's like SDCC, not only post pandemic, which like I was at their last one too, which was post pandemic, but also post like, a lot of the mergers and stuff like that. Like, so you might recall I used to spend like all of Saturday doing those like WB like
Yeah.
TV press rooms, and now that like Discovery's taken over, like a lot of those shows are either not happening, not being, or promoted. I mean, like the CW's entire like DC slate is down to just Superman and Lois. And even that did not get an SDCC panel. And obviously we're dealing with the strike and stuff
Yeah.
like that too, both writers and actors. But some people listening, it's like, well, Josh, that's the way San Diego is supposed to be, just about the comics, not
Yeah.
about the media. So yes, there was a lot of comic stuff there too, and Donovan and I got some work done for DC and Popverse. Donovan is whittling his way into our Popverse family, which is nice. And we were just hitting the nose, being productive, and we saw Barbie. That was fun.
Yes.
I think we FaceTimed you right before
Right
we saw
before, yeah,
Barbie.
you were at dinner.
Yeah, we were at we were at dinner. Donovan was fully dressed for the entire convention, as far as I recall. So
Oh, you don't know about his bathroom shenanigans. Did he? I don't recall him posting. And actually, there may have been one post, I'd have to find it, that he may have taken in your bathroom, your shared bathroom.
it's possible because there was a few mornings where I like left ahead of him because I had to like get to something. So that was good. And then after San Diego, this is one of the craziest things that I like did. I couldn't believe I did this because how much San Diego like takes out of you, like physically,
Of course, yeah.
mentally, and
People
everything.
get sick often. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I got back. It was like I left on a Monday, so like it was like Tuesday, like late morning when I landed, and by Thursday I was on another trip. And it was an 11-day road trip from Florida all the way up to Manchester, New Hampshire. So one of the families that I work with, which I alluded to some of the stuff on the last episode, they experienced a personal tragedy. So for the end of the summer, the boys and I we drove their cousin who was down there for the aftermath of the tragedy back home, and we thought that it would be a nice like end of summer boys road trip. These boys have not experienced a lot of like seeing America and stuff like this, so a lot of this was new for them. So we went to Washington D.C., saw some landmarks, went to New York City. So it was a good trip. We decided if we're going to do this, we're going to do this in a fun way. So we rented a Tesla, which was like, ooh, that was an experience too. Like
Yeah.
on I think our first or second night on the road, I discovered the cruise control and auto steer, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, the car's driving itself. I don't know what to do. What's going on? Like I mean, I knew what it was doing, but it was like so weird to me because I'm so used to like having to like operate everything, and you still have to like have your hands on the wheel and like your foot ready for the brake in case the auto stuff doesn't like detect something. But like, man, that was wild. And there's a story for the way back from the trip. I don't know if this I guess I have to share it now. So on the way back, we dropped the cousin off, and I had the two teenagers on the way back, and a cop accused me of like
Oh
trafficking like the
no.
teenagers.
You were pulled over
We were pulled over, and so
just
they're
because he spotted you and two teenagers?
no, we were going like
Oh no.
55 and like a 45 or something, but
Okay.
we were like going on the interstate ramp. But anyway, he like got my information, and he like, it's because the boys were a different color, so he was asking them a bunch of questions, and I like gave them the information, but they're, because of their family situation and stuff I mentioned, they don't know their full situation. And the cop was not asking them the right questions. He was not asking me for their like guardian's phone number, which I could have given them to him in like 10 seconds. So at a certain point, he has to talk to the boys in private. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. And it's him like checking everyone's story. And when they got back in the car, he said, yeah, he asked for my address. And I told him I didn't know it, which they don't. And he asked for my phone number, and I told him I didn't know it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to jail. But it was fine. When he spoke to me, I gave him all the information. He says, well, this sounds like a very sad situation for everyone. I'm sorry. Um,
Did he ask about what had happened, or he only got that information from you?
he asked about what had happened, because it was
Okay.
like every single, we answered everything truthfully, but like when he initially interviewed me, every single answer to the question just made it more suspicious. It was like, because we're in a rental car with a New York license plate, because that's what they gave us. It had a New York license plate. He's like, well, where are you coming from? And I said, Manchester. And where are you going? Florida. And we're in South Carolina at this point. Well, if you're going to Florida from Manchester, why'd you go from this road? And I said, oh, because we were visiting my dad at his new place. And he's like, okay, are those your kids? And I say, no. Well, where's their mom? And I told him where their mom was. And then it was like every question, like, just like was like, okay, there's
Yeah.
a story behind this. There's a story behind this. But we got to see. I mean, it was stressful in the moment, but it was like a funny thing afterwards that we could like almost laugh at. Like, I got accused of trafficking teenagers across state lines.
Isn't that the
Um,
second time? Wasn't there a time at like 7-Eleven where someone thought you were Mexican and you had two white children and they also called the cops on you?
yes,
Okay.
Publix.
You have like the worst luck being around kids.
Yes, I have the worst luck. Indeed, I do. But
Yeah. And
but
that
you know
other
what?
thing, that other thing like didn't get you, would that have been pulled up when he was putting your
it,
information in?
it it was not pulled up, no,
Okay.
but I mean, I told him, and I had like a little bit of like light PTSD from it, because it was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is like everything's gonna be all right. But now, aside from all that, like, this was a good trip for everyone. You know, we got to see America. It was a great way to end the summer, and it was like a positive healing thing after a tragedy, and we could laugh about the incident with the cop, you know. And obviously, it would have sent me spiraling emotionally like 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm in a better place now. We got to see my dad and Mindy's new place in South Carolina, because they just retired, so that was nice too. So that was finding my joy was an 11-day road trip
Man. Yeah. And
right after San Diego. I
right
don't
after
know how
San
I did it.
Diego,
I don't know
had
how I did it.
had I not had to work on Saturday, I would have definitely driven over to the Great Wolf Lodge and gone swimming with you all.
We went to Great Wolf Lodge. Yes, that
Yeah.
was, and it's like I said, these are teenagers that haven't had a lot of life experience. So, like my brother Jesse said, like, would they even care about Great Wolf Lodge? Like, they're kind of like old, and I'm like, oh no, they loved Great Wolf Lodge. They were like, look at these rooms, wow, like, because the rooms were like
Yeah.
really nice,
They're very
and
nice. Yeah.
they liked the water park. You know, it's not like a Florida water park, like, and
Indoor.
they could
Yeah.
have met the famous Stella, but alas.
Alas. Alas
Yeah,
and alack. Yeah.
because they see your picture all over the apartment.
Oh, yes. Brown or blonde? I only brown, right?
I think I have to. I mean, I have not updated my pictures in a while. The only one where you're blonde, I think, is there's a picture of us at the beach with our naked friend
Oh.
from 2017. I think you were blonde
Oh.
in that one. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Maybe. Might have been.
It's in the living room. I'm too lazy to get up and look, and I don't want to take the iPad with me, because then the whole
Yeah.
podcast community will see my messy apartment right
That's
now.
fine. That's fine. I didn't go fully blonde until 2019, so that might have been highlights potentially. But
It might have been highlights because I'm looking at my lock screen, which is us at BGSU, and you're still like completely brunette there.
yeah, and super long hair, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Find your joy. I'm glad you did it. I have to say, I think I've only been like pulled over by a cop once because my tail light or like one of my brake lights was out. So he told me. And then when I was a small child, I remember we just had gotten back from ice cream and I had like a cone. And I think that was also like a light situation. Like we stopped my parents and I just like completely lost my appetite. I like lose my
Aww.
appetite. Feels like my bowels are gonna get loosened. I get really nervous. So I don't know how all those questions would have made me exceptionally nervous and then that would have made me look guilty, I'm sure. As for me, I think the main find my joy was my recent trip to Falmouth, Massachusetts, aka T-ticket. And I do want to do like a step by step or a day by day, but I think now is not the time because I know that this episode is going to be long and it's late already. So I will just say that. So I'll do it. I'll tell you guys what the plan is, but it'll be next episode. I'll go day by day. So Harry, my right round, all the names that I call him, turning 30, and his mother, the mayor of T-ticket, decided to decided to fly Donovan and me up to celebrate this. Okay. Um, so this was planned April May of last year. So secrets were kept. Now I game with him once or twice a week. And once we got closer, I was asking, "Oh, what are your birthday plans?" Things like that, because I'm interested, and he just wasn't getting it. Now, at one point, he was super upset because he's like, "Oh, I need to update you. We're going on this sailboat trip. I've already been once. I didn't like it. I'm super upset that I have to go on it, and it's on the actual day." And I said, "Oh, I knew about it because Donovan and I are also going." And I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe keep an open mind. I can only be vague about it." Then we'd take some personality quizzes. And one of the questions was, "Do you like surprises?" And without a
Uh
beat,
oh.
without a hesitation, he says, "No, I hate them." And so one of the options is like from close friends or family. He's like, "No, it doesn't matter. I hate surprises." So then I immediately texted the mayor. I'm like, "Just so you know." So I knew because Donovan was worried, like, is he going to be uncomfortable? And I'm like, you know what? Probably, yes. He says he lives in a state of discomfort. So I'm just like, he's going to be immediately uncomfortable, but then I think afterwards he's going to love it. So Donovan and I hid behind the car. And then when he got there, we like shot up and said, "Happy birthday." I said, "Ooga booga." And there was like this look that he was not comprehending what was going on in front of him. Like, how could these people be here? And then he kind of buffered. But throughout the entire day, which was on Friday, I kept asking how he was doing. Um, there are some other things that I can tell you about. Obviously, some bad stuff happened to me, so I'll try to remember all of this bad stuff. But I think overall,
During the trip.
yes, involving a
Okay.
flight, involving a flight.
Oh, Donovan briefly
Yeah,
mentioned that
told
to
that.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because after it happened and I like FaceTime Donovan and had Harry in the picture and I was like, "Surprise, I'm still here." Donovan said, "I'm sorry. It seems like you've had a rough go of it lately." And I'm like, "Thank you. Thank you for saying that." Cause I feel like I say it a lot. Like I have had a really bad past 2 years. And when other people notice it, I'm like, thank goodness it's not just me. It really is true.
Yeah.
Um, but no, overall it was great. Donovan at one point said, like, "I haven't seen you this giggly or like free in years."
He said that to me. He said that you were
Yeah.
like
It
lively,
was
like
like
hyper goofy Stella.
it
Yeah.
was like I guess I don't know if that's quote unquote normal Stella, then that's what you got. But I think it was just because I didn't have my school was done, didn't have work. So it was like no responsibilities and I was
Yeah.
a distant from everything. And it was just like nice to be that. And then of course I come home and it's like everything comes crashing down on me. I've got job. Oh yeah. But no, that was great. Um, the Women's World Cup. Now I'm just gonna play armchair sideline. analysis for a bit. So I said UG and yay in my notes. So the UG is USA. The USA team really let me down. It let
Oh.
the yeah, I mean they lost their first round of
I
the
didn't know what I was
knockouts.
cheering for. I thought that they won. So when you said
Yeah,
USA, I was
well,
like,
that was the
man.
hope. Like they were going in. I think they were number one ranked in the world. Okay, but I mean, from the outset, things were very weird. I'm glad Vlaco is gone, so he's left. Mutual decision, but it was weird because he gave the captaincy to Alex Morgan. Okay, and Lindsey Horan. I'm like, oh, now Lindsey Horan can play pretty well, but I think immediately Crystal Dunn needed to be captain. And so I'll just throw out racism. I mean, if you look at her 2019 play for that World Cup, she was holding that back line, especially against France. Like you should have seen what she was doing. And I feel like she kind of had that tenure and should have been the captain. If you want to switch out one of the two, you choose, but Crystal Dawn I think definitely need to be. And then just interesting picks for their team. Megan Rapinoe, which I guess I'll get back to, that's a bit iffy, but like I don't think Julie Ertz was up. She had just given birth, and I don't know that she was physically ready to come back. There was some like standout people missing. Of course, there were a lot of injuries, which I could go on and on about all the ACL injuries, and that's just problematic in the women's game because they're not being taken care of like the men are. But like Ashley Hatch from DC Spirit, I think she should have been called up and kind of take these other people because we had this 18-year-old Alyssa Thompson who it's fine, she's probably good, but I feel like even with she barely played and she didn't really make much of an impact, and so I think why put an 18-year-old on there. And call me a hypocrite because Spain had Yellow and she was great. She's also 18, but completely different. So I think that the team was just chosen oddly. Vlaco was doing some weird stuff. He was like not putting subs in. I don't know what's going on there. The team itself wasn't playing as a team, just as a bunch of individuals. And then Megan Rapinoe coming on and playing poorly. I think her time, I mean, she's retiring. This was it for her. But honestly, she was not playing well, and she carries a name and a cause with her, but that wasn't good. That which the cause, of course, women getting the flack. They didn't score enough, which of course in 2019 they're like, you scored too much against Thailand. Getting some backlash against not singing the national anthem. People are saying, this is the time to be unified for America. And I'm like, actually, this is the time to, because you're on a national platform, to stand up for what you believe in. And also, those are hypocrites because they were the ones after the US won 2019 saying equal pay, equal pay, equal pay. So you can't do that and then 4 years later say that. But my other team was England, and so they made it to the final, which I was super happy about. Didn't win, sadly. Spain beat them, but I was happy to have another team, perhaps a team that I like more now than the US, get there. But this whole World Cup was pretty nuts, just with these Cinderella stories like Jamaica that didn't even have a women's program 2 years ago, making it to knockout rounds, Colombia beating Germany. We have two teams in the final for the first time ever, Spain and England. So it was nuts all around. I don't think that the US deserved it. So I'm glad that they didn't win. But I think that's it for my armchair analysis. I don't know how many people cared about that, but I did. Okay, so that wasn't necessarily Find Your Joy, but I was like waking up early. Like the first, I guess it was Harry's birthday, which was on Saturday. Woke up at 5 a.m., went on a run, came back 6 a.m., watched, I think it was maybe England versus Sweden. Maybe I can't remember what. It was definitely England playing somebody. So that's how dedicated I am because those are some early games. I woke up at 3 for a game. Yeah. Okay, we're moving on. So we're in Act 3, which is also called Endgame, Act 3 of War Games. Naive Stella over here thought this was it. Unfortunately, after Act 3, there are two epilogues And then we have war crimes plus some secret files and that kind of business.
Now, War
I
Crimes was released like months later, though.
Which
To
is
be
interesting. Yeah,
well,
especially
it's a
yeah.
sequel, like
As if we wanted it or needed it.
well, and it was also to fix some of the problems with war games that we'll get into.
Yeah, we certainly, yeah, because issue 8, part 8, I'm like, what? That's how you're ending it? So
When
Josh,
Batman's, we'll get into it.
yeah, we'll get into it. It was just nuts. I was like, this is the end? Is there more pages? Did my Kindle did it delete it? So Josh suggested, hey, do you want to just push through War Crimes? I was like, man, I really can't do 4 more. It's just like, let's cut off at 8. So we're just doing act 3. So you're going to have to just survive with, I mean, basically I'm in the boat with you. I've never read it. So this is just where I am. I don't know what happens after this. We're going to cut. Josh is not going to be on the next episode because I told him I need a break. No offense. Yeah, no offense to him, but I just need a break from war games. I'm going to do some Birds of Prey next episode, which is good because it comes out like in between anyways. And then we'll do this epilogue and war crimes business, which I'm sure that's when we'll be screaming, I guess, at the screen. So per usual, we will got the synopsis and my questions, and we'll go from there, and we'll take a break after part 4. Anything before I get started from you?
Let's storm the Coliseum.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so Act 3 is called Endgame, as I said. So Part 1, Good Intentions, Detective Comics 799, and December 2004 is the cover date for all of these parts. Writer Anderson Gabrick, penciler Pete Woods, inker Cam Smith, colorist Jason Wright. Gotham City is absolutely calm, and Wesley Tompkins enjoys the little break she has had in over 24 hours. Arturo Rodriguez reports the current situation and comes to the conclusion that either the heroes of Gotham won the battle or this is just the prelude to the final and most devastating battle. Meanwhile, Batman's war games plan has been set in motion, and the Bat family is herding all the criminals, freaks in costumes, and mafia members inside the Robinson Parks amphitheater. Batman is overlooking the situation from inside, while the Gotham City Police Department is surrounding the place with help from Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl. Batman tells the police to wait for a signal before starting to move inside the place, much to Commissioner Aiken's dismay. Inside, the place is crowded, and the villains are getting anxious to see their would-be leader, Orpheus. May he rest in peace. However, at that moment, Onyx goes to Orpheus's apartment, and after looking for a moment, she finds his dead body and contacts Batman. At Robinson Park, the imposter appears and talks to the criminals of Gotham, giving them instructions to turn all their efforts against their true enemies, the vigilantes. Batman realizes that something is very wrong, and of course, and Onyx tells him that Orpheus is dead. So he finally gets that message, and that the man in the park is an imposter, and he's basically like,
world's greatest detective.
I know. Batman tries to reach the man posing as Orpheus, but is attacked by the hundreds of villains in the place. He spots Dr. Death operating some machine, while Firefly, Killer Croc, and many other villains attack him. Batman fights him as best as he can, but he is soon outnumbered. Tarantula is prompted to leave the place and take her gang, Las Arañas, to safety, but many other gangsters and criminals are also going out. Batman fights the villains and manages to take down Dr. Death and destroy his machine. However, there are still hundreds of criminals that want to destroy him. Oh my gosh, I just realized that was the machine that Onyx had to go check on in Act 2. That's so weird. Like, this wasn't even, what a pointless plot point. Remember, Onyx had to go and like check, and she's like, I don't know what this is. And it's so foreboding. You're like, oh, something's going to happen. And this is it. I didn't even know what was happening here until this plot synopsis. And I'm like, that was worthless. What a waste of time. Okay.
There's a lot of time wasting, especially as like, this is Act 3 of a story that could have been told in 2 acts.
I would agree. Yeah, we're going to talk
maybe an act and a half. Like,
yeah.
You know, like.
The GSPD aren't sure of what's happening, and since there hasn't been any signal from Batman, they don't know what to do. When the criminals start coming out of the place, the police are attacked by the many criminals, including Carnivora and Scarface's gang, forcing the police to answer shooting rubber bullets under Batman's instructions. Batman manages to light the signal in the sky, but it is much too late to do anything about it. Using her surveillance system at the clock tower, Oracle, I should say that this is from DC Wikia. Oracle notices that Batman is barely able to fight back the waves of enemies that come to him, and she calls in the other members of the team to go inside the park to aid Batman. Meanwhile, the GCPD and the criminals have finished their battle, and there are several casualties from both sides. But the police, whenever anyone says that, I think of August 12th. But the police managed to get the situation under control. Right after the worst is over, Commissioner Akins gives new instruction to everybody: whenever there's a costume freak, shoot to kill. Okay. Question: what exactly is the plan here? Is it just to have everyone in the same place, get them all on board under Orpheus per the original plan? Can you explain to me what Batman had in mind?
He says it in the next part, and it's a stupid plan, which is like they're all united under Orpheus, and then the cops come in and arrest them all, which is like, what? How would that have worked? That's a lot of.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a lot of handcuffs, and like, I don't think Blackgate and Arkham are that bad. I don't know. Like, this was not a very practical plan, which is funny because like in the next part, Batman keeps on saying the plan was perfect. The plan, the perfect plan. Like he keeps on saying that it was all perfect. It was all perfect. But he lays it out like, yeah, the cops were gonna go in and arrest them all. And I'm like, I don't know if this is like a discrepancy between the art and the script, but like there are a lot more gang members in there than there are cops.
Yeah.
And the cops have kind of shown to be like, not the best equipped to deal with like these gang members anyway. So, and I honestly have a hard time believing that like after what happened at the high school, like because they couldn't even all be in one place without like World War III. That like now they're gonna all go to the Coliseum because Orpheus said so.
And who is gathering them though?
Or I mean, I guess like there's like a messaging system through the underworld that like was activated through like Matches Malone and Orpheus and all that, and Onyx.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just because remember when he was trying to get the, I don't know, the Double Dragons, the Yakuza or whatever, and then they pretended to go along with him and then started fighting him. I mean, it's like no one was listening before, so I don't know why.
Because they'll listen to Orpheus. They're not going to listen to.
Yeah, but no, Orpheus was the one to try to do that, and like, yeah. So I just don't know why now
it's been a long
all of a
summer.
sudden work. Yeah, you and me both, brother. Yeah, I just don't understand why it's all of a sudden working. That because if this were true now, why didn't it work before?
But it's not working. This whole plan.
No.
I mean, the only thing that works is that like the gang members are like taking a break from killing each other.
Yeah.
Which again, like I have such a hard time believing that like all of them in that Coliseum are just like.
Yeah, I agree.
And also like a Coliseum, like you're not going to meet in like the Iceberg Lounge with your top lieutenants. Like you're going to have everyone in one place. Like you're just asking for it.
Yeah. And I think symbolically it's interesting using an arena for fighting and brutality.
You notice who Batman like calls for help when he's about to die? In his head, not aloud.
When he's about to die?
Yeah. He's getting like buried by these guys and he's like, Barbara, I'm counting on you. Barbara, I know that Barbara's gonna like send someone to save me.
Oh,
like, the Barbara that you've been like shutting up the last 2 acts, and the Barbara that you're gonna continue shutting up for the next like for the rest of this.
Oh my gosh. In a worse way coming up too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the interesting speech that Orpheus, aka Black Mask, says. So if our goals, let's see here. I'll start at the beginning. Your unified presence here tonight shows that you have intelligence and a powerful sense of self-preservation. It shows you understand we cannot continue to go down the path of a bloody, barbaric gang war. Our goals are the same. Our needs are the same. Our enemies should be the same. If our goals or needs and our enemies are the same, ladies and gentlemen, then what the hell do I need you people for? Oh, don't get me wrong. You are also very good at your jobs, but I really don't expect that you'd fall into line. So I'll just have to recruit a new army, I suppose. This seems like a confusing speech because if everyone is like listening to you, why would you discard them just to start up again? And in the end, he actually uses this army.
And it's also there's one of you, and like,
yeah,
A lot of, unless it's like an abusive dad, like reverse psychology thing, like tell them that
Interesting.
they're worthless so that they'll try it. Like, but I don't think that it's that smart. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't think it's that deep. um, yeah, I just think this is one of those things where like a lot of times with cross, and this is just my theory. I wasn't in the writers' room, but like I know that with a lot of these crossovers, you have like plot beats like planned out, and then everyone writes the individual scripts. And this is one of those things where like the individual script didn't match with like the rest of the plots
Okay.
that were being told, but sometimes it happens too late.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Nightwing stuff that happens in the aftermath of war games, like the continuity is really all over the place with Nightwing.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I said I know it's comics, but this corpse that is Orpheus, were you at all confused? Because his face is still on,
So
and then he's still bleeding.
I said it's been a long summer. I couldn't remember if he made a mold of Orpheus's face or if he cut Orpheus's face off.
Well, I remember that he and I can, of course, flip back in my
Like I remember
Kindle.
he made a mold of the face,
Yes, like he did
and he
have
used
to
some of
make
the
up for
skin.
it. Yeah, but part of his shtick is taking other people's faces off.
Maybe he put it back on for fun, so that
I don't know.
Onyx would fun.
I guess, yeah,
It's again that goes with what we said about the Black Mass feats, where like it's one of those things where like issue by issue, like the scripts don't always match up because of how
yeah.
these are all made at the same time.
And
So
I mean,
like
yeah,
when you're writing part 5, the person that's writing part 2 is writing part 2 at the same time. Like you know where your story has to begin and where it has to end, but like you have not seen the other person's script. All you know is that like there's an Orpheus corpse.
that's true. Yeah. And we know, I'm trying to see if I can find well, there's his. Um, when he gets, there's his face. I don't know, bat phone. I guess I'll keep flipping as I talk. But as he gets punched by Batman, it's like chunks of the makeup, kind of in a Clayface sort of way, fly off. So it seems like it's more makeup than skin. But I honestly really thought that
Chunks of Orpheus were
that was his
flying all
shtick.
over.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Is all I have to say about that. And then
Another thing, when I say it's been a long summer and like I might not remember like Act Two as well, but like the police are listening to Batman, and I'm like, am I wrong in thinking that when we left this, like Atkins told Batman, no, we're not going to do this for you? And like he spoke to Gordon, and like Gordon was like, yeah, like you should have arrested him for even suggesting it. So like, did something change, or am I like, did that 11-day road trip fried my brain?
um he basically commandeered them.
He come, but like Atkins is like going along with it.
Well, I don't know that he has any say now.
He's commissioner. He's got a. I almost dropped an F bomb.
He's got a
he,
bleep bleep.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
he's
know.
got a bleeping say.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I seem to remember like Batman asking to do this and Atkins saying no, and like now we're doing this, and I'm like, and of course, like it does go wrong. Like surprise,
Yeah.
surprise. Like like maybe
Yeah.
you're like perfect plan, Batman. I get so mad in the next part when he's like, "Who's the perfect plan?"
I guess I'm confused because that's a face. So I don't know if it's only
Is
made of
that the
putty or it's I don't know.
yes?
But how does
I
that
mean,
yeah, I don't know.
I don't think that that's like Orpheus's like face ripped off of his body though, because it would not be that like clean.
I guess it was like a I was thinking it was a Joker situation. Remember he cut off his own face and
The
then stapled it
Joker.
back on? Yeah, that
Oh,
guy.
and that was pretty messy.
It was yeah. So that's what I thought was happening. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Well, if yeah, but all the cops are following him, so I think it was a choice. Each cop kind of had an individual choice of do we follow Batman or do we not. But then he does wrest control. He is in the commissioner. Yeah, I guess I was confused. Just go back to that, the Orpheus. I guess maybe his face wasn't cut off, but he is still bleeding for some reason. So I don't know about that. But a bat was cut into his chest. I think those were the only notes that I had on this. Do you have anything else that you would like to say on this particular part?
I addressed my notes like as I was responding to yours. I like put mine in there, which were my notes were like, um, I'll just like read like what I put. I said Batman controlling the police at dot dot dot, which was my way of saying like, wait, was he supposed to do that? And his plan went wrong. So, and then I have in
Again.
quotations when he says, "I'm counting on you, Barbara," because like
Yeah.
that line was like, oh, okay, we appreciate Barbara now, but only in our internal monologue.
Yeah. And
Not,
only
not
briefly.
the. Can you tell that I know who my audience is right now? Like my, and when I say my, I mean like Stella Bowman, my audience. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
like I'm really playing to my audience of one at the moment. Like,
I did forget. I'll have to do that. Remind me after the break because I sent out that tweet about whose fault is war games. So I do have the results from the
I
people.
saw somebody's result that I
From
thought
the
was funny.
people. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
oh, somebody's our
yeah,
naked friends.
yeah.
Boy,
It
was I
was
about to paddle his little behind after that.
no. Somebody said that it was the naked friend. Someone said it's
Oh,
Darwin.
yes.
Just
I
like you
thought you
said,
meant well,
he
the
threw the
naked
wrong
friend blamed
pizza on the river.
Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's why I paddled his coconut. Okay, part two.
Oh my god.
The Road to Hell. Batman Wedges of the Dark Knight 184. Writer Don Horrocks, penciler Brad Walker, inker Troy Nixie, colorist Javier Rodriguez. The criminals gathered at Robinson Park continue to spread out of the place into the city, despite the GCPD efforts. Batman thinks about his perfect plan, his perfect plan, to
Oh
capture
my
all the
god.
criminals in Gotham and how it went wrong. Batman keeps fighting the waves of criminals that decide to take a chance on him, while the imposter posing as Orpheus keeps enticing them to attack Batman. Meanwhile, Nightwing and Batgirl are on their way towards the theater where Batman is located and they race each other, getting there almost at the same time. And just then, Robin and Onyx arrive and join the battle. At that moment, Tarantula leads the gang, Los Arañas, out of the park, but they encounter several police officers and have to make their way through by attacking them. The reports about Tarantula's escape reach Commissioner Akins and the other members of the GCPD, who stand outside the park, unable to believe that they had the chance to apprehend all the criminals in Gotham, but the chance was blown because of Batman. Aiken tells his officers that Batman is no longer on their side. At the park, Batman tries to reach the imposter and is attacked by Killer Croc. Robin gets rid of Croc, allowing Batman to get to the main stage and attack the imposter posing as Orpheus. Batman hits the man twice in the face and the disguise falls apart, which I have up here. You see the chunks. It's very disturbing. Well, that's my spot. The disguise fall apart, revealing Black Mask, who Batman believed to be dead. Black Mask explains that the fall from a tall building didn't kill him, and Batman prepares to take him down when he is suddenly attacked by Scarecrow, which was kind of nuts to see. Both Batman and Black Mask are surprised at Crane's intervention, and Scarecrow explains that he was delighted, probably erotically, by the sight of
Oh,
hundreds of criminals cowering in fear, all due to Black Mask's plan. Black Mask thanks Scarecrow and uses a smoke grenade to escape before Batman can reach him. Black Mask escapes and the sky turns dark as it begins to rain. Batman stands in the middle of the battlefield while the rest of his team has already taken care of the criminals and are staring at their boss, who is silent under the pouring rain. Very dramatic. Batman turns around and explains that this whole situation was a mistake, a plan that was intended to be a strategy game but was never meant to be set in motion. However, the plan was set in motion and the game has turned into a war that has left nothing but death and destruction. Batman addresses his team and tells them that the games are over and that from now on they're at war. Wow. How many issues are we in? 16, 17. The 18th issue in this run, he's finally decided the games are done.
the games are done. Like, and Tim Drake is standing right there, and it's like he had one of his friends die in his arms. And like there was a school shooting in Act
Yeah.
One. Like it's like I realize now that this isn't a game, and it's like, oh, Darla Acquisition says thank you. Like,
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, this was, and he almost, and again, I chalk this up to maybe each writer having their own idea of what it was supposed to be, because he's like, this was never supposed to be an acted. This was like just like a game that I played online, and it's like, because I feel like from the other scripts, this was like he said it was like a last resort. It's like it was a contingency plan, but here he's like, oh, it was just like a creative exercise I did. Like when you write someone a letter that you're never going to send for like therapy or something. So like we keep on changing like across all these acts what the war game is. Was it something that he did online as like a training exercise? Was it a contingency plan? Was the plan for the shootout in the 10 cent adventure or 12 so whatever, however many cent? Because remember at one point like that wasn't supposed to happen. The gangs were supposed to be unified then.
Right.
But then in another part he said that like, oh, actually the war was supposed to happen. Like
Because he
we
knew the power was going to go off and everything
right
like that.
right.
And
So
that someone
like
was going to, yeah, yeah,
yeah, we keep on changing
yeah.
this. So
It's very inconsistent.
yeah, but I mean, I had a problem with like Batman's characterization of the war game throughout this because like I mean, it's a case of the writers not all being on the same page. But when he's like saying, "Oh, it was never meant to be serious," I was like, "No, this was you said this was your contingency plan. This was absolutely something that you planned for. Don't give me this. This was never like you didn't do this as a joke." And then also his like, it was the perfect plan. Oh, your perfect plan? Your perfect plan where like had deaths? Because I remember people on the message boards talking about this, saying like, if Batman said that he planned for every death, so if this was a perfect plan, he was planning for deaths. He was planning for like all these power outages and
Right.
stuff, and
Yeah.
his perfect plan was to like lure all the bad guys into a coliseum and have the cops bonk them on the head and like arrest them. Like that's like something from like a cartoon where like the like cat like puts like a cheese under like a box and there's a stick and the mouse like goes in and the stick falls and it's
The
like
mousetrap game.
yeah like surely Batman is smarter than this.
I have like a bunch of questions, I guess.
Oh,
So first
let's go.
question about that, if, well, in regards to what you're talking about, would you consider Tower of Babel a strategy, a potential strategy, like a practice or a contingency plan?
I believe I have to reread it because like it's been a while, but I would say that was if my memory of the story is accurate, that's a contingency plan.
Okay, I would agree. What about Brother Eye? Was that a simulation or a contingency plan?
I mean, didn't he straight up build it? That's like that's a
That is
straight up
true. Yeah.
that goes beyond contingency plan.
Yeah.
That's a plan.
Yeah.
There is a brother eye in the sky.
So it seems like that's his
And that
MO.
happened after this.
Yeah.
So Batman learned Jack. Bleep.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I think that's his MO. I think that's what he does. He's not, this isn't strategy or like a simulation to see what would happen. I think it's always like, just in case he's doing
Sometime
this.
after this story, he was in the Batcave and he's like, I've been thinking about war games, Alfred. Yeah, Master Bruce. Yeah. I I think I almost got it right. Let me build this brother eye. I think my contingency plan will work this time.
Yeah.
I think I finally got it right. This is not going to blow up in my face.
Yeah.
And Alfred's like, if you need me, I'll be at Leslie's. Like,
That's when Alfred needs to quit. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my points, is just that Batman keeps thinking that his plans will work. When will he learn? I think, I don't know if they did bat summits back now in 2004, because remember we found out about these bat summits that would happen. I also found out when certain writers weren't invited in, mainly the females. Do you remember the bat summits?
yeah, yeah.
Do you think that they did them back then? Or is this a sign that they did not? Because I feel like that's something easy to do, is like plot out what is the war games, what were Batman's intentions, and then have everyone like trickle down. But these inconsistencies are just,
because I think I read about the summits, but again, there's a difference between like having on a whiteboard like everyone's like plot points
yeah,
when you're writing your scripts at the same time, because like person writing Legends of the Dark Knight is not seeing the script for the issue of Nightwing that's coming out that same month, because these scripts are all being worked on together. You know, things fall through the cracks. Like, yes, they plan the outline together, but outlines are. Did you? Yeah, you interviewed Devin Grayson recently, right? Or you're about to? Or oh, you should ask her about this because she was one of the writers on War Games. Or you are interviewing Devin Grayson coming up, right? Didn't you tell me that you were planning on it? Okay.
no,
Never mind.
yeah, I don't know. I had interacted with her on Twitter,
I guess we can
Uh,
ask her on Twitter,
yeah.
yeah, like what, how, like if she's writing Nightwing, does she like the Nightwing chapter of War Games? Does she know the script for what's happening in the Robin chapter of War Games? And I'm thinking no, just because like I'm not, and I'm not blaming the writers for this. I'm just saying that like due to the nature of the speed and how these things are made, like it's the editor's job to keep track of all of that.
Ye- yes, but I think if you have an outline, the script, everything should point towards these particular points. Like I'm just thinking about like a teacher. Like if I'm teaching Latin 1 and I've got a colleague also teaching Latin 1 and we know we want to get to a certain spot, we know exactly what we need to teach. How we teach it might differ, but it has to be the same because it's not like I'm going to start making up how to conjugate verbs. But like the activities and things will be different, but it's all leading to the same point. And so I feel like this is the same here. Like we should have had an idea of what these war games were, the purpose of it, what Batman's doing, da 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 da. And then
Well,
these other things that
it's
are happening. And the script, I mean, so you should have that point. Like the purpose of this is that this happens. But what
but in
we're
your
seeing is,
metaphor, they are
yeah.
doing that. And if your metaphor holds, they are doing that because like the previous issue ends at the Coliseum, this issue begins at the Coliseum. Like they're fulfilling that mission statement of connecting like the end of part like 3 to the beginning of part 4. It's the particulars of the scripts where like little details.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a little detail if we don't know why Batman has done it, has made this plan.
And I think that that's a, I mean, I hate to say fake because I was not there and I've made 0 comic books in my entire life, except for the ones that like I made in
Sure.
6th grade,
Yeah.
like that the world will never see. But like
Aw.
as someone who was not there, I'd say that's a failure of like the team of not being on the same page during the original like meeting of like knowing what the war games is. And maybe the failure of like, maybe that should have been something established like in act 1, like what is the war game, like making it very very clear, because we still like it's still this very very like vague plan, like was the power supposed to go out, but if the power is supposed to go out, then why was the shootout and that Stephanie called at that meeting not supposed to happen, and
Yeah.
like
And the
um
and you make a big, I mean, you brought this up in the last episode and you brought it up just now. The fact that Batman, had he known this, he would have known that people would have died. And he
yeah.
comments, I think, in twice in either one issue or just once in both of these parts here that we've done, that hundreds of people have died. I think that's actually a low ball number. I feel like more people, way more people have died than that. But the fact that we're saying that he has expected that, and that's very much out of Batman character.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. People maybe
Yeah,
didn't take a step back and think, oh, da, 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 da. Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of War Games was. That's what I'd like to know. Just like, what was the point of it? Maybe I'll ask you that
I mean,
or
and then
maybe War Crimes will find out.
my,
I don't
my
know.
my theory is, and I said this in Act 1. My theory is the point of War Games was to get the Bat family out of Gotham, to get Batman to be on the wrong side of the police again, so that way the
Oh,
comics match Batman Begins.
oh, that's interesting. But the Bat family is still in Gotham by the end of this.
The they're like in the next issues of like Robin and everything like that, like everyone goes there. Everyone's
Oh, in their
and
epilogue.
yeah, like this is
Okay.
this is not a spoiler for me to say. This is like just like like War Games is basically like sending everyone off on their own thing.
Okay.
Like Cass and Tim are going to Bloodhaven.
Yeah.
Barbara, there's no clock tower, so obviously you'll see in Birds of Prey what she's going to be up to.
Yeah.
Spoiler when I say there's no clock tower, but like I mean you read this recently.
Yes. Yeah.
Spoilers for the listeners. Something's going to happen to the clock tower.
Soon.
What's
Yes.
Emmett Brown
In a
and
net
Marty
sort of
McFly going to
way.
do?
Yeah. Uh, you're right. Yeah, this was when I talked about it's difficult to imagine the police being able to arrest those hundreds inside the amphitheater, which
Yeah.
yeah, it's brought up more the point of the story, or the going to Robinson Park is made more clear in this particular issue. The Croc and Robin matchup reminds me of, I think it was No Man's Land that they fought against each other. If it wasn't No
They
Man's Land, it
did.
was Nightfall. But yeah, it was No Man's Land. So I thought that
Oh,
well,
well,
interesting.
they fought a Nightfall as well.
That's
They've had
yeah. But then
they've had a few
yeah, but
fights.
then Batman kind of does a switcheroo and tells Onyx to go after Croc, which I thought was interesting. Talked
He's
about
like,
the
oh wait,
horror.
never mind. I already read No Man's Land. You do it,
Yeah.
Onyx.
The horrifying reveal of Black Mass with bits of Orpheus flying everywhere. Ugh. Are you surprised that Scarecrow landed such a punch on Batman?
Yes and no. Um, yes, because Scarecrow's not a fighter,
Yeah.
and no, because this is something that one of the this is not a spoiler, like what I'm about to say, because this is like one of the ways that War Crimes addressed some things that people had complaints about in war games, and one was how were all these people landing these hits on Batman, and a character brings up during war, or I think Batman or another character brings up during War Crimes that one of the reasons why he's so easily being fought by these people is because he's been up for days and he's overtired and his like HP. When I say HP, like when you're like a video game character and your like life bar's low, like he's low, he hasn't had like a meal or health or whatever, so he's not operating at his best. So people like Scarecrow and later on Black Mask are able to like get him.
Okay. I will have a question about Scarecrow later on. And then my final question is, do you feel
Yeah, me too.
do you it's probably the same thing. I'm like, what the F just happened?
Yeah.
Is it a pot? I don't know. What is it, a positive or a negative character development or aspect, or just, did I say moment, of Tarantula that she cares more about her gang than Batman in the amphitheater because she ushers the Los
Positive for
Orones?
Tarantula,
Yeah.
negative for Batman.
Okay.
Because I mean, she's been entrusted with these people, and this
Yeah,
is,
and she's done it.
and she's taken that to heart, and she stood up for them for Batman, saying, "No, I'm not going to make them fight this war for you." You know,
Yeah.
like she still took them to the Coliseum in the first place, which I thought was odd, but like, no, I like that for Tarantula. It's weird because like a few months ago she was trying to kill Barbara Gordon, but like you know,
I know. Yeah. And steal dick away from her and all that.
well, and she got him.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. Yeah, don't remind me. Anything else on part 2?
nope.
Okay. Then we are on part 3, Casualty of War. Nightwing, 98. Writer Devin Grayson, penciler Sean Phillips, inker Sean Phillips, colorist Gregory Wright. Batman sends his troops on single missions in order to take back Gotham City from the criminals that are currently in control. Batgirl is sent to deal with Killer Croc. Oh, I was wrong. I thought it was Onyx. And Suicide Queen. Batgirl is sent to deal with Killer Croc and Suicide King. Robin is sent to swipe the entire city. And I think it's sweep, man. Sweep the entire city and check with Batman later. With Orpheus dead, Onyx is assigned as the leader of the Hill Gang, and Nightwing is sent to the west side of Gotham. Batgirl tries to warn Batman about Spoiler's involvement in the whole War Games plan, but Batman stops her from speaking in front of Robin. And after he is gone, Batman assures her that he is going to find Spoiler. Nightwing races across the rooftops of Gotham, thinking once again on his involvement in the murder of Blockbuster and his feelings of unworthiness as a member of Batman's team. However, his worries disappear when he spots Firefly going inside a building belonging to the Escobedo cartel. Nightwing remembers Firefly's involvement in the burning of Haley's Circus and follows the criminal inside the building. Firefly is pissed, looking and looking everywhere for anybody in the building, and Nightwing realizes that he has been working for the Escobedo cartel, but now that the gang has been eliminated, Firefly has no way to claim his money from them. Nightwing attacks Firefly by surprising him, and the arsonist uses his flamethrower against Nightwing. Nightwing uses the desk as a shield and he throws the desk at Firefly, almost hitting him in the head. Firefly stumbles and falls down, telling Nightwing that he must not kill if he's with Batman. However, as Nightwing approaches him, Firefly recognizes Nightwing as the one who killed Blockbuster, and now he is cowering in fear. Meanwhile, Catwoman arrives at Holly's apartment and she learns that Spoiler has escaped from Holly's care a few hours back. I thought that this was already mentioned, but here we are. Catwoman acknowledges that Spoiler's persistence might get her killed or promoted by Batman because she smiles at the end. Nightwing and Firefly continue the fight outside of the building and they give no sign of stopping. At that moment, Orca learns through her system that the GCPD are attacking criminals and vigilantes alike. A couple of officers arrive at the scene where Nightwing and Firefly are fighting, and they shoot at both of them. Nightwing tries to use Firefly's metal wings as a shield, which shocks Firefly, but he is shot in the leg. Firefly mocks him, and Nightwing knocks him out for good. Nightwing leaves Firefly at the reach of the police officers, and he tells them not to shoot him, but they aren't listening, and they keep shooting Nightwing as he goes away from the place. A few moments later, Nightwing stops to rest on a fire escape ladder near the top of a tall building and tries to contact Batman by radio and tell him that he has been shot and is badly injured, but he can't stand the pain and soon falls unconscious. Later, Black Mask returns to his hideout and finds that Spoiler has managed to free herself, but has left a trail of blood behind her. Black Mask arms himself with a sharp weapon and starts looking for her. Okay. I found it very interesting that Batman stops Cass to talk to her after Robin is out of earshot. Do you have any thoughts on this scene?
I think Batman is so happy to have Tim back, which he says as much, in this storyline, that he doesn't want Tim's performance affected by like hearing that Stephanie might be in danger or something.
Yeah. Does that mean that he believes Cass is mentally and emotionally stronger than Tim?
I mean, Cass already knows, but I mean, I'm sure he thinks that it depends on how you define mentally and emotionally stronger, because I think that like both Tim and Cass are mentally and emotionally strong in different ways.
But does he not think that Tim can handle this revelation?
Could Tim handle it? Yes. Would he prefer Tim not knowing, because like he wants Tim free of distractions while he's out in the field, and he's already going to be distracted because a classmate died in his arms, and Batman said, well, I just realized this isn't a game, like a week later. I mean, and again, this is me filling in the blanks. Like, none of this is like in the subtext of the issue. This is just us, like, guessing why he would. But I think it's just he doesn't want to worry Tim. He doesn't want to affect Tim's performance, and like until something can be done about Stephanie, that Tim's knowledge of the situation isn't going to help one way or the other. It's just going to get him more worried.
Okay.
So like, don't tell him something until there's something to tell him.
Yeah.
Or something he could do about it.
And he is just back in the game, but this action, I think, with Batman, both this action as well as the book and action that he'll do with Tim is interesting compared to him not worrying about Tim later on when Oracle's like, you should worry about Tim. So it's like I'm watching two different Batman in this particular act.
Well, and then the bookend, like what he does to Tim in the final part of this is like, that's a lot more messed up. Like
we do need to, we'll have to talk about
that. Well, we're gonna talk about that. Like,
so there's like concern, but there's also not concern, depending on the writer. I don't know. So there's just.
I mean, I think I don't think that it's a contradiction saying there's a concern and there's not a concern. I think he thinks.
You don't think that's a contradiction?
No, I don't, because like he's concerned about Tim knowing about Stephanie, but he's not concerned about Tim in the field the way that Oracle thinks that he should be concerned about Tim in the field.
Okay. But wouldn't one affect the other? Isn't he worried about Tim finding out about Steph because how he will act in the field?
It's a nuanced situation.
Oh,
he doesn't think that Tim's gonna lose. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you could keep on reasoning yourself. Let's go.
Reasoning myself. Have I not been giving Batgirl a hard time this entire like process?
You have. Yes. Keep on going. Keep on going.
But there's things, and you've had this too with your students, where like you're worried about some things, but you're not worried about the other, and it's like it's just all a big nuanced thing.
Whatever, man. Whatever. Okay, we'll move on.
I don't even know if I can articulate it like as clearly as it is in my brain right now, but like
that's okay. It is
like he and Barbara are not talking about Tim's feelings about knowing what's going on with Stephanie. They're talking about Tim's general performance and mental situation at that moment. Batman's like, he's doing fine. Now, Batman can think that Tim's doing fine and still not want to give Tim information that could jeopardize that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's why I don't think that's a contradiction.
Okay. We'll see what the people at home have to say
Oh,
about
the
that.
people at home, yeah.
Uh, Especially that naked pizza thrower. Okay. Are you surprised Nightwing acts the way he does in this particular fight with Firefly? I noticed that there was no PTSD, whereas just a few hours before he had that meltdown with a bar
um,
on fire.
yeah. No, I think, I mean, I'm sure that you've dealt with PTSD before. Like, it comes and goes at odd times, and you have your good moments, you have your bad moments. And maybe part of him was taken over by adrenaline because like he was angry at Firefly for like the whole Haley Circus thing. Now when he mentions him killing Blockbuster, like I would have thought that would have triggered something, but from a writing standpoint, they couldn't keep on like telling the same story of Nightwing like losing it during a fight and then shaking it off. Like you can't do that every single issue unless you're adding something new to it or progressing it in some way. So they do it. But yeah, I mean PTSD, it's
Yeah.
sometimes it hits you, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I think the I think just anger kind of took over his feelings of worthlessness and guilt, and so he really went after Firefly. But it was scary. It was scary how he was. It was almost Batman-esque. You know how Batman gets like really close to the edge. It
Yeah.
felt very much like that, and then he gets shot, and I'm like, my gosh, how many times is Nightwing going to get shot? Oh, there goes my light. It
Uh-oh.
means it's 11 p.m. when that
Do you
light
think
goes off.
do you think that Dick's coming to like yell at you for Haley Circus and that's when the light went off?
That's interesting. I hope not. I hope not. But he can take his shirt off and then he can yell at me.
Another naked friend.
Another naked friend. Those were actually my main 2 points there. Do you have any other thoughts on this part?
So continuity note for Nightwing, because this is where Nightwing's continuity kind of goes all over the place. Because like this issue, like Nightwing is passed out and like he's bleeding from, this bullet wound. How long do you think this injury lasts off the top of your head?
This injury?
Yeah,
Well, may I ask a clarifying question?
absolutely.
Do you mean how long does it like do we notice that he's having trouble because of it, or how long is he like on bed rest before he goes off and fights?
The first one.
Okay. Because I remember when he got shot in the arm, he was like still doing all this stuff. How long do I think?
Yeah.
Well, because you're leading me to believe that it's going to be easily forgotten, and the next issue he won't have a wound.
No, the opposite. This is
Really?
yeah,
I'm
he's
glad to hear it.
so Nightwing's going to be all over the place in ways that don't always make sense chronologically, but obviously he passes out the end of this issue, and then like the next issue, which is not part of War Games, but it's like in an aftermath of War Games. I don't think it's one of the epilogue issues, so I don't think we're going to cover it. But like he's in the Batcave, and it's implied that like basically he went straight there after this, and he's been passed out for the events of War Games, and he's learning about things that have happened since this issue of Nightwing. And then at the end of that issue, due to his guilt over Blockbuster, he leaves the Batcave, and the Nightwing book goes on like for the next 6 issues of Nightwing. It's Chuck Dixon and Scott and um oh my gosh, the co-writer. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I'm having a brain fart because it's late at night. He co-wrote all the year ones with Chuck Dixon.
Oh, Scott Beatty.
Scott Beatty, yeah, Chuck Dixon, Scott Beatty, and Scott McDaniel. It's Nightwing year one. So Nightwing, we don't see Dick Grayson in the present day for those 6 issues, and then it comes back. There's a time skip. He hasn't been Nightwing for a while, and he's like leader of like Bloodhaven. Well, I don't know if he's leader at that point, but he's like in Bloodhaven's mob undercover, and he still has his crutches. I think they even call him Crutches as a nickname.
Oh.
So like it's implied that like he passes out, after making it to the Batcave, he wakes up and he leaves. But yet during that hiatus, during that like time, he's in like issues of Batman, including like Red Hood, and Red Hood will like reference like the Red Hood storyline, meaning like where Jason Todd comes back. They reference like Dick's leg injury. You see him in like not crutches, but almost like, you know, a leg bandage, if I recall. I don't have it in front of me. So like someone listening's like, actually, this is how they dealt with the leg thing. But it's really weird because of the way that like Dick's presence is explained of him leaving the Bat family at the end of next issue to go to undercover and be in the Bloodhaven mob. There's no time for him to be in these other storylines in Batman while his injury is also happening, yet he is. And then also, like, we do see him in one of the later parts of War Games, like waking up telling Alfred, I'm going to go to the battle, but then he doesn't. So it's a very messy period for Nightwing. And also, he's an outsider during all of this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and they're dealing with drama too, because like one of their members turned out to be an evil android, and it was a mess.
As comics are, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it lasted a bit longer. I guess I'll say
Are
my
are you
question about.
covering Nightwing month to month still? Now that Oracle's not going to be in it.
Oh, she's not gonna be in every. I kind of like skim through things and find her, and just to
Okay.
keep up with the storylines. So
It'll be interesting to skim. I mean, and she'll be in Nightwing year one because like she's Batgirl in that.
right. I think I'll save my question. I hope I remember it about how Alfred found him, because that was like, how did he find him on that random fire escape?
I mean, I'm assuming that like there's like a tracker on him, or did it say that Alfred found him?
Oh, he's the one who patched him up.
I'm assuming that he like made it home between the issues somehow or something.
Oh, I don't think
or that somebody brought him.
Well, we'll fact check you on that. Anything else on part 3?
Nope.
Okay. Part 4, Too Many Ghosts, Robin 131. Ooh. Writer Bill Williams. What was that song? Ooh. Wait, what was that Starfire song?
Ooh. Oh, remember? On the mysterious, it was Teen Titans Go, like the mysterious side of the voodoo.
That's a cool voodoo. I'm gonna have to find have that clip. Okay, there's my reminder.
It's from a story arc on Teen Titans Go called 5 Whole Days, where like each episode is them on a deserted island. So if you need help Googling it, search for like Teen Titans Go 5 Whole Days. Yeah, I think the song's like the mysterious side of the island.
Oh man, I remember that was like one of our Comic-Con songs.
Yeah, for the listeners, during one of the San Diego Comic Cons, we went to like a WB preview night where they like show you a bunch of WB episodes from like the upcoming seasons of things, and there was a Teen Titans Go episode, and Starfire sang that song, and we got a kick out of it.
Well, anyways, writer Bill Willingham, penciler Tom Derenick, inker Robert Campanella, and color Sky Major. Robin finds the Ravens again. I thought that they were dispatched before, but here we are, and engages in combat against them. Vicious and Pistolera make fun of him as he keeps talking to Oracle through the intercom. Robin kicks Vicious in the face, breaking her nose, and then he takes down Pistolera, disarming her in the process. Robin tells Oracle to call some police officers to his location to take the couple away, and as the police arrive, Robin leaves, asking Oracle if there's any other place where he can go. Oracle tells him about Trickster and Mr. Fun causing trouble elsewhere, and Robin gets going on his motorcycle. At that moment, Black Mask starts looking for Spoiler, following the trail of blood left by her, and he finds her mask lying on the ground. Spoiler attacks Black Mask by surprise, and they start fighting again. Meanwhile, Oracle contacts Batman and asks him to his location. No. Meanwhile, Oracle contacts Batman and asks him his location. Batman tells her that he is going back to Orpheus's office to start investigating the trail of Spoiler, who has disappeared. Batman asks Oracle about Robin, and she tells him that Tim is doing extremely fine, and maybe he is overcompensating after losing his friend at the school shooting. Wow, they finally brought that back up. But Batman tells her that Tim is fine, and he dispatches Oracle in a rude manner. I didn't write that. That was DC Wikia. Oracle contacts Robin and asks him what his current situation is, and he replies that he is on a hot chase after Trickster, who leaves the car he is driving and starts walking in the air with his anti-gravity boots. Robin uses the bat rope to drag Trickster down, and after telling him about how dumb he is, because he could have earned a lot of money for those boots, Robin leaves Trickster hanging from the bridge. In the meantime, Spoiler is giving Black Mass the beating of his life. Black Mass is surprised to see the change in her attitude, reflecting upon her fighting skills. Stephanie tells him that because of his endless torture, she finally understands that this is not a game, and she keeps beating Black Mass to a pulp. That was one of the dumbest things I read. I'm like, I don't think she ever thought it was a game. Why is it
Yeah.
funny now? That was so weird. I don't know who thought that was a good line. Robin is on his way to stop Mr. Fun, and Oracle tells him to take a break and stop overworking himself. Tim replies that he doesn't need a break and he is rude to her, just like his mentor. Robin gets to the cathedral and easily defeats Mr. Fun, after which he realizes that he must apologize to Oracle, as she was only concerned about him and his safety. Man, Bat Jerk and Bat Jerk Jr. Stephanie finally gets the upper hand in the fight and sends Black Mass flying against a desk that breaks in half. Black Mass reaches for the drawer and picks up a gun, but Stephanie takes the weapon from his hand and gets on top of him with the gun pointing at his head. Black Mass urges Stephanie to pull the trigger, but she hesitates long enough to give Black Mass time to reset, basically rest and get a second wind. Stephanie can't shoot him because of all that Batman taught her, and in the end, Black Mass tells her that's why she will never win against him. Black Mass shoots Stephanie in the shoulder, telling her that she should have done that to him. Black Mass takes Stephanie near a staircase and kicks her down, leaving her completely unconscious. Black Mass reveals that he plans to torture her a bit more to learn all she knows about Batman, but now all he wants is to get Spoiler out of his sight. Black Mass reaches Spoiler and tells her to give Batman his thanks.
I thought he said that he was going to do that, but she took the fun out of it, and now he wants her out of the sight.
I would agree with that. So this is
I think that's the case where the recapper misremembered or like misinterpreted.
Because he basically was like, you're done. You're no good to me anymore. So I think he's also done with the torturing. Black Mass reaches for her and tells her to give Batman his thanks for sending a weak, poorly trained child against him. Robin goes to Leslie's clinic and meets with his father on the rooftop of the building. Jack Drake is worried about his son, but Tim tells him that he decided to take a little break under one of Batman's lieutenant's suggestions. They share a moment in silence, knowing that they are in danger during this time, obviously. And after a while, Jack is called back inside the building, and Robin also has to go, and they leave knowing that they care for each other. Okay. So first of all, I will say that Robin praises Stephanie, and she's actually praised by Alfred for bringing light to Batman. But it's one of those situations where everyone's praising about her, but never to her directly. And Robin also admits, or Tim, that he resents her a little bit for taking his position. So I thought that was interesting. Do you agree with this, or you felt like that was out of character?
I mean, I think that if you read those issues of Robin, I think you said so. Like we saw that he was kind of like mad about it. Like they misunderstood each other. Like because the two of them have still not had a conversation since they've broken up, except for like Tim called the Batcave and she answered, and like Tim made a snide comment, but like they have not had a full on conversation. And when that happens, you create your own reality in your head of like what the other person is doing and what their motivations are. That happens to me when I get in conflicts with friends. Like until I hear their side of the story, like you have that paranoid part of you that jumps to conclusions. But I mean, I think it's human to slightly like be mad that like when he quit, his ex-girlfriend took his job. Like, if he wasn't a little resentful, like it would almost be unrealistic, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think that this is absolutely correct. I mean, this is certainly something that I read into the character, but I think the fact that he actually verbalizes it is pretty cool.
I mean, I think that he admitted as much in previous issues as well. Like this doesn't feel like new information. No. I feel like it's consistent with like what we've seen.
Yeah, I just don't. I think we've only seen it. He's never like verbalized it. That's what I mean. So I don't disagree with you at all about any of this stuff. So here is where I said Oracle just makes good observations about Tim, and Batman ignores them. And, Oracle calls Batman a pompous jerk. But I feel like maybe we've already discussed the nuance of all this. So do we need to retread that particular situation about Oracle's concern and Batman's non-concern over Tim's behavior?
The only new thing I would say about it is that Batman could have handled the conversation better.
Yeah.
Like, Oracle's heart is in the right place. And I think, but it's like what we said, both of them are not operating at like their emotional best, like because of the stressful situation. So I will give them a little bit of allowance for that. But like, yes, this is a discussion that could have had more empathy, particularly from Batman's part.
Yeah. 100%.
Empathy. There's a lot of lack of empathy in
Yeah.
some actions in this book.
No doubt. Um, okay. The Stephanie and Black Mask fight. So
Oh
this is
man.
something that, of course, we brought up it would have been Act 2, I suppose. Um, what does the character gain, or what does the representation of the character gain from having her have this like second wind and really beat him up?
It was a nice moment of triumph for her, but unfortunately, it's like all undone by him like shooting her in the shoulder. I
Yeah.
said shoulder for some reason. By him shooting her in the shoulder,
Yeah.
making like more like sexist and predatory remarks towards her, and throwing her down the stairs. It kind of that is the impression that you're left leaving the scene with, not like, oh, she got the upper hand on him or whatever. And because this was, before she was revived a few years later, but this was supposed to be like the end of the character. This is not a good way for the character to go out. This would be her final battle. And her, like, you can say, oh, well, it proves how strong she was because she didn't give in and shoot him. But it's like, you have like Superman fighting Doomsday when they both like throw the punch at each other. Superman goes down fighting, or like Batman defeating Darkseid very briefly before in Final Crisis. And maybe those comparisons aren't fair because these are like the most iconic characters and most iconic deaths. And Stephanie is not like, Batman or Superman. But even still, like if the intention was to kill Stephanie Brown here, this is like not. I mean, at least she didn't get snuck up behind like Orpheus, like and like completely forgotten, like as well. Like Onyx is the only one that's like cares about Orpheus dying. I feel like, um,
And Stella.
and Stella.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said like, oh man, I'd love to see an Orpheus and Onyx like miniseries when we were like
Yeah.
covering Act 1, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I
It's so
can't.
sad. So
I know.
sad. Yeah.
I had to bite my tongue so much during Act 1. You're like Orpheus and Onyx. I hope they have a bright future ahead without blackness. But no, like if the intention was to kill Stephanie, to make her final battle be like this villain making like very predatory, like sexist remarks towards her, throwing her down and like torturing her again. That's excessive.
Yeah.
Like, and again, I think I mentioned this when we did Act 1 and Act 2 that this is like not happening in a vacuum. Like we have identity crisis happening also, where like Jean Loring is getting, raped by Dr. Light and stuff like that. Like there is a lot of like misogyny and violence against women. I guess that's like almost the same thing, or like but it might be redundant to say misogyny and violence, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like. I mean, and even reading this in like 2004 or 2005, whatever year it was, I think we're still in 2004 at this point. Yeah, even reading this then, I was not a fan of them doing this to Stephanie because I'd been reading the characters since the 90s, and it just felt very mean. It felt like she never got her moment of like redemption. Like the takeaway of the story is Stephanie wasn't good enough, and everything's her fault, and you know she never gets that moment to set things right or to like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I love this that like she waited out for him. I don't know if she could have left and didn't, because I mean she ends up leaving at some point. But she like sticks around and is waiting for him and has a second win. But it's so this quote is like one of the dumbest things I've ever read. Um, what's the reason? Let's see. If you'd fought this well last time, this is from Black Mass. If you fought this well last time, you wouldn't be in the shape you're in now. What's the reason? Get off the pain? And she said, no, it's because this time I finally realized my life's on the line. I finally understand what Batman couldn't teach me before. This isn't a game. I mean, did we ever think is that
No,
like a really superficial look at her that just because she was having fun and being a lighter element in Batman's world that she thought it was all jokes? Is this
I
a
I
bad
was
read on the
I was
character?
not a fan of that too. And like this is something that continues on with Stephanie. And like Michael Bailey even talked about this with you during like the single digits of your episodes when you guys were covering that first Brian Q. Miller run. Like there was this kind of narrative around Stephanie where they were treating her like this like new hero that like, like now Stephanie's in the big leagues. Now she's realizing that this isn't a game. Like that was something that they would do with her like every once in a while. But like she's yeah, I was not a fan of that.
Yeah. And then her hesitation, obviously it makes sense, but it is interesting that, she almost pulls a villain and monologues, and that's how the villain gets the rest. You know how normally like the villain monologues and the hero gets the rest. Now she's
Mhm.
monologuing in Black Mass. So that was
Well, because it's a
very interesting.
stalemate. It's like she
Yeah.
can't kill him. She realizes she can't, and that's I don't think it's on purpose that it's character growth, but it is character growth because she was willing to let villains die, like in her earlier appearances. She didn't kill them, but like there would be issues where there's an issue of Robin where the Baffler, which is like one of her dad's old henchmen, he like ties her up, and there's like a building that's going to be like a implode construction site. And Stephanie's like, "Oh, can't we just leave him here? He was gonna kill us." And then like Robin's like, "Every life matters, Stephanie, even his." She's like, "Okay." Now, granted, leaving someone to die is different than shooting them in the face, but
Right.
even still, like you see that she values life more now. And that was an early Stephanie appearance. That was like Robin issue like 40 something or whatever.
Yeah.
Like before she and Tim were like dating even.
And that's a similar situation to Tarantula and Nightwing, because Nightwing didn't pull the trigger, but he did walk away.
Yeah.
So, and then yeah, just disposed of, and like he has no fun with her anymore, so he kind of just pushes her off.
It's very demeaning in ways that like if I was Carolyn Coca, I could articulate in a lot better ways.
Yeah, she should
Just
be
like
writing in.
yeah,
I should demand her
Professor
writing in
Coca,
my
well,
book.
you're our only you
I
should
know.
show her you should
Police.
you should
Yeah,
show her this page, and be like, well, what do you think of this?
yeah.
And she'd be like, Stella, I told you to lose my number.
Oh, that'd be so sad. Are you
I told
surprised
you
that
not to text me on this
I
number
know,
on
seriously, like I've had enough of you. I don't care about you. I've pretended for years. It's too much for me. Are you
We
surprised
love
he
you,
does
Professor C.
Are you surprised that he doesn't kill her?
I was relieved at the time because like I knew that like there was supposed to be another death before the end of this, or like based on the internet. So like when Stephanie like lived through this, I'm like, oh, maybe she'll get out of this, storyline alive.
Yeah.
And maybe the death will be somebody else. Alas.
Alas and alack, yeah. And then finally with Tim and Jack on the roof, which I did like that scene, but is this a stereotype of men? Um just not being able to express their feelings very
Yeah,
well?
yes and no.
Okay.
Tim and his dad have done the I love yous to each other before, and like they have had an affectionate relationship. I think that this is just speaking more to like things are still very tense because Tim broke the promise.
True.
He's being Robin again, and him and Jack are adjusting to this new relationship because Jack does not like this, but he's like, I don't even know if accepting it's the right word, but he's like, he's accepted that this is the way that it's going to be.
Mhm.
And I think things are just awkward between them because of that. Um, it's like a married couple after like a big seismic shift in the relationship or something.
Interesting.
You know, I don't know if you're waiting for me to say more.
No, no, I'm thinking. I was just
Okay.
thinking. Yeah, it's reminiscent of the Batman and Robin getting back together, and they don't say anything, and then they like shoot their grappling.
Yeah,
In the previous act is like these guys can't voice their feelings.
that's
What's
kind of
going
been
on
like
here?
that's kind of been a theme in war games, but like Tim and his dad have been open about their feelings and affectionate before. And they've had a weird relationship because like initially he was more of an absentee father, and then after he got injured and Tim's mom died, like Jack was all like, I'm gonna be the father that I was always supposed to be. And then Tim kept on disappearing because of Robin stuff, and Jack thought that he was running away and acting out in teenage rebellion. So like their relationship had a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But they've like survived it together. Um, and I Jack is either already dead in Identity Crisis when this issue came out, or he's like about to be dead
Yeah.
because of like the way that publishing is like going.
Yeah.
So
Anything else on part 4?
I think that covers it, everything. Let me look at my notes just to be sure. I mean, the only other thing that I would think is that Stephanie tortured. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, when Babs and Bruce are talking to Tim, like they're like, oh, one of Tim's classmates. One of them says something like, "At least nothing else bad is about to happen to Tim." And I was like reading that, thinking like his dad is about to die and his girlfriend's about to die. So like,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Aside from the Stephanie and Black Mask scene, this is easily one of the more superfluous chapters of War Games. Like the Black Mask and Stephanie scenes are the only like important scenes of this chapter. All of this else could have been taken out, and it's where you go to the whole padding thing.
Yeah. I would only say potentially just seeing how Robin is acclimating because he's like, it feels so good to be back. So that would be the only thing. I was like, okay, he's doing okay because it was a bit like touch and go before.
Yeah,
And in the previous one, he's like, oh, I don't know if Batman's upset at me, and now he's just doing much better. So that would be the only thing. But yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, so nothing else on that.
go for it.
Okay, so Josh and I are going to take a break because we're at the halfway point. When we come back, we will finish up Act 3 with no epilogues. And I think that's it. But first, it is Zayas' Radio Hour featuring Out of Your Mind by Mr. Wise.